I'm Stacie Jurczak. I'm the program and product manager for our retail commerce here at Acumatica. And I come with about maybe 25 plus years in the retail industry, going from concept to shelf, which means that from the design of a product, the production to packaging, to the counter sale itself, or point of sale to commerce. So happy to join everyone today. And with me is David Corredor from Heuristyc.
Nice meeting you, everyone. I'm the client success manager for Heuristyc. We are a software development company specialized in Acumatica, and we are the team that maintains and improves the Acumatica point of sale.
Excellent. Thank you, David. And the reason why David and I are on this call together is over the last year, we've been working with their team on point of sale, the Acumatica point of sale solution. And through that process, what we've learned is some evaluating how pre-sales discovery is done. And what we've learned is through that process, how we qualify counter sales, and then when it's not a good fit, who to hand it off to in the other ISV, with the other ISV solutions that we have that integrate with Acumatica. Okay. So our overview today, we're going to go over counter sales and modern retail profiles, then assessing business needs through discovery. And then once you land onto that discovery, some of the guidance for both profiles, whether you're counter sales or a modern retailer who is using tablets, and then some post-decision next steps in that process as a customer looking and assessing these solutions for your business. So there are typically three merchant types that we encounter in the pre-sales and discovery process. So if we start from counter sales to the modern, the modern retail POS solutions out there, typically, if you go from left to right, your counter sales often has B2B customer profiles with maybe 80% B2B, 20% B2C. And then there's kind of that hybrid mix of D2C as well in there. And we see that not just in point of sale, but obviously also with the online commerce platforms that also connect back to some of the POS solutions. So let's take a step and let's start with the counter sales profile and who that is when they're looking at these solutions and looking at and how do they connect with Acumatica. So typically a counter sales profile will handle over-the-counter sales transactions. As I mentioned previously, it's often with B2B, may have a lot of on-account type customers and maybe a mix of walk-in customers. A good example would be, a parts store, if you will, and maybe they have, a lot of on account. They have people that come in and sign off on, large orders of equipment they take back out with them. We hear that often when we're qualifying these, and it often makes sense that they've got an on account customer within Acumatica, and they have multiple users or multiple contacts underneath that B2B account. And what's really valuable that we've heard coming in is really qualifying, is that person who they say they are. And that's where, with Acumatica, a lot of these solutions is, whether it's your online profile with coming from the platform or walking in, that who's signing off on that order is who they say they are. The customers I mentioned, they're business or contractors rather than retail consumers. They typically will sell in bulk and handle these high volume transactions, mentioning industrial supplies or parts. We've even had, David, would you say, nursery, concrete customers? So it goes across all industries, actually, manufacturers, distributors, construction, and just general sales.
Yes, we've seen a lot of hardware-related business needing the counter sales solution. So definitely there's a lot of that on the subcontractor side of people just needing the replacement parts or ordering for B2B process. So definitely, it's been a mixture of pretty much everyone across the board on distribution and manufacturing that may have the additional need for this. And we're talking about small stores in front of the warehouse, or we're talking about showrooms where the cells are being engineered. So definitely there's a big difference between the possible business that require the point of sale for counter cells, but the general needs are still the same.
Exactly. And this is typically, we envision when we get a discovery, we kind of always look at the website. Are there images out there to kind of qualify what does this customer's real environment look like? And which is really helpful in that pre-sales discovery process. So we can get an idea of who the customer base is going to be, what their environment looks like. So often operate in those non-traditional retail settings, and typically is a counter and maybe, connected to a warehouse or a service department. And then really at that counter, the focus is on quick, direct sales, literally at the counter. And often what you'll see is a setup like this of a traditional desktop with, a monitor with a barcode scanner, a keyboard mouse entry, that barcode scanning with the Acumatica integration is great because they don't have to key in. So anytime you can use a barcode scanner in any counter sales or retail environment is great. And then you usually will have a printer for receipts, a credit card terminal, and now with Acumatica payments, obviously the ability with the credit card terminals to have a receipt print there, or if you're starting out at a counter sales level, through the POS itself. And then the last piece is usually a cash drawer. So there's typically 5 to 6 components to the hardware most people will need. And it's really important as we go through that discovery process to understand the legacy systems. And David, I don't know if you want to I'll hand off the modern retail point of sale profile.
Yes, for sure. Part of the qualification process that we have done together and on different businesses is we try to understand first what are the characteristics to point the person in the right direction. Partners usually have an idea of what type of solution they will need for the point of sale, but it's not until we sit down and we talk about all the possibilities and all the requirements that they understand what are the real options for there. So modern retail is much different than the traditional counter sales. So we're talking about retail and omni-channels operations, basically the whole suite integrated with multiple sales channels and multiple avenues of sale. Normally caters to consumers. That means that the individual client will be the main driver of the sale. We're talking about normally we see around 80% of the sales being for the direct customer, and just around 20% could be B2B type of transactions. The point of sale normally integrates with online sales channels, and we're talking about online platforms. What we reiterated on the first point, just massive amount of sales with modern, non-traditional avenues. So they accept multiple payment methods, and that means pretty much all the latest technology and all the latest integration for payment methods, both in person and online when they're doing it through their platforms. And they have access, because they're integrated in multiple platforms, they have access to loyalty and rewards programs across the board. So they want to ensure that the customer experience, the customer that walks in the store has access to their loyalty programs the same. It doesn't matter on which channel they're buying, if it's in store or if it's online. They want to be able to share that experience and share that feature. So that's a big one on the modern retail.
And then I guess in closing, when it comes to the hardware, we'll typically, and we'll go through this in the next few slides, but typically wanting to have that, kiosk or tablet or, mobile phone type of access, within that environment itself. Okay. Sorry, looks like my FiOS internet is going down here in Texas, so bear with me. Hopefully I stick on. I just got a note. All right, so next let's talk about the pre-sales discovery decision tree. So if I'm looking at what the ISV options I have for point of sale, what is it that we're asking to kind of drill down. Ultimately, we'd love to be able to answer this within the 3 to 5 questions. That at least ensures that, when you're looking at these systems, you get the best demo for the time that you have available to evaluate everything. So what we typically ask is, what is your current legacy system? It's important to know what you're coming from, right? To see, how does that need to adapt? Or are you looking for something similar? Or are you looking to really overhaul and evolve your entire POS solution across the board? Then, again, how do you plan on scaling? We talked a little bit already about who's your customer base. Are you B2C, B2B, or hybrid? And we're finding most of the customers evaluating point of sale are a hybrid, customer base at this time. That loyalty program consideration is big. Even if you are in counter sales, there's still that opportunity to grow your loyalty program. So that's something that we're hearing more about in the discovery process. Do you require offline capabilities? What's your network access or Wi-Fi? Like, I'm a great example today. My Wi-Fi is down. If it goes down, what do I do, right? How do I keep those transactions going along throughout my sales day, and I can, continue to make transactions happen. We've also met a couple of field service or fleet service customers as well, who have, they have POS in store, but also have service operators going out, selling equipment, coming back, and, processing those as a sales order. Special orders and shipments is pretty standard. We hear that across the board. And that's a big consideration on how that's getting processed. And then, do you prefer tablet or a modern UI for your users? Especially if you have a seasonal business, you may not have the same staff every year to year. So how do you get people up and running and make everything efficient at the counter? And then finally, typically, what is your payment gateway requirements? That may determine which solution that's out there that integrates with Acumatica is a good fit. And then finally, your daily transaction volume. Are you low transaction daily, under 100 orders? Are you medium, 500, or high, which is 500 plus? David?
Right. So yeah, how does this question actually translate into qualifying or trying to point the customer in the right direction? So what we can see here is just the typical answers for a true counter sales client. So normally what we have found is that they come from legacy systems that are detached. Normally they're not integrated with their current ERP. They're very old systems. You have to think about just your regular hardware store where the point of sale has nothing to do with accounting. In terms of that, the movement to integrate both is something that we have seen more recently, and it's something that we are definitely providing a solution with, not only with the Acumatica point of sale, but the other solutions that are there in the market. So the scaling part is very important. Obviously, we're talking about Acumatica, but the part of online sales is very important on driving this decision, because if you are already moving towards an online platform for sales, something like Shopify, BigCommerce, all of that, you need to take that in considerations, because there are options that will be catering more to that type of solution and will be better integrated than others. The customer base, we have seen, like I mentioned, for counter sales, normally 80% is B2B, 20% is B2C, and they're a mixture of both, but they're catering to that manufacturer distribution into wholesales environment. Loyalty considerations are usually not a big concern for counter sales, because, like I said, it's normally B2C and not for individual customers. So they may have things like discount that Acumatica handles perfectly, price tiers and all of that, but not true loyalty programs. Offline capabilities, that's a mix. field service could require it, mobile sales. We have seen cases, for example, with delivery trucks doing the sales on the route, and then you have to consider if they will have good access to internet connection during the sales. So the offline capability is a big point to decide on the platform or the ISV that you want to go to, because not all of them are prepared to support the offline. Special orders and shipments, like Stacie said, that's pretty much across the board. Normally, you will require shipments or special orders. And the key things here is the access to inventory availability. When you have multiple channels and when you are selling not only in store, but you have a wholesale distributor system behind you on your warehouse, you need to ensure that what you are selling in front is actually available and it's not being fulfilled by another order that came on the phone or came through an online platform. So direct access to inventory availability is key for counter sales. When we're talking about the UI, normally counter sales will have a workstation on the little counter, so tablets are not that much of a concern, or a modern UI. Normally, the users will have access to other parts of the ERP system, so having a unified interface could be a benefit, versus retail, where normally it's a little bit more separate, or you need to have a more simpler and faster interface to ensure that you are going through a high volume of people. When we're talking payment gateways, obviously Acumatica Payments is a great addition that has come to the market, and it's the preferred method for most systems. Other ISPs as well have integrations for other gateways natively, so that's a consideration. If they want to stay with a certain gateway, that may narrow your options. And yes, the volume, definitely, it's a very big concern on terms of the solution that you will be selecting, because some are more catered to the whole process. For example, hardware store, when you have a walking client from a subcontractor, and they will spend 5 to 10 minutes talking about parts and selecting things, versus a true retail where things go much faster, and a typical customer will spend less than a minute on the counter. So this type of answers starts giving you direction if you're doing true counter sales, or if you're doing modern retail, or if you're in the middle. Go ahead, Stacie.
Sure, and just to conclude, so of the solutions that Acumatica integrates here, the options would be the Acumatica point of sale, as a, if you go from counter sale to growing into maybe a mid-tier retailer, so it would be maybe considering a demo with Acumatica point of sale, possibly one retail, if if you had more requirements that we're leaning more in the middle of the modern retail, or possibly Fusion POS. So when we get those opportunities that come up, that's typically how we give customers the options. Here's what may be a good fit for you. Next, so the modern retail discovery, and I'll drill through these. One thing we didn't mention is regions. Regional support's really big. As you look at these, whether you're counter sales as well as a modern retailer. So again, across the board, you look at what that legacy system is. How do you plan on scaling? And what's a big question we always ask is that, do you already have a commerce platform you're selling through? Because that may determine right out of the gate too, if you already are a Shopify customer, we may, have you looked at Shopify POS? If you're using the big commerce connector, and in your modern retailer, what are your options there? So the customer base for the modern retailer discovery usually falls into the opposite. It's 80% B2C, 20% B2B customers. The loyalty program considerations are pretty much maybe or yes. They may have an existing or a new program to really look at and assess. And offline capabilities. So maybe or in the future, most retailers want to make sure that, they can, is it end of day that they're doing these scheduling. If you have multiple registers or more stores with multiple users, that's also a consideration. And then your retail environment, it must, easy onboarding. And most users, if they're looking at the more modern retail, more modern point of sale solution, is most of their front end users will not have access to Acumatica. So that's a consideration too when we're looking at which solution. And then that network access or Wi-Fi, all yes across the board there. And then the special order shipments, same thing. It's if you're a modern retailer, more than likely yes, in this process separately. And really the defining factor is I prefer to have a tablet or mobile. I want my users to be in store, want them to be able to walk around freely, process orders, or maybe you've got a situation where you've got line busters, and that you need to be able to have that mobility to get your lines down, especially maybe it's Black Friday or a special seasonal offering. And then again, it comes down to your payment gateway, and that commerce platform supported and what payment solutions are available there. And then typically the daily transaction volume tends to be medium to high here. So as we're looking at this and qualifying what solutions are there, obviously if you're already on the Shopify platform, let's take a look at Shopify POS. Let's work with their sales team to get you a demo if you haven't had it already. Or if you're not there, taking a step back, take a look at One Retail possibly, or Fusion at that point. And if there's other point of sale solutions that customers are interested in that are more retail friendly, maybe we look at what those integration options are out there and available to you. And I know we're pretty close to time here, but really after you've considered, am I a counter sales type of customer? Am I that middle tier? Am I between the counter and true retail? Or am I really a retail merchant and you have, multiple stores and you kind of fit in that box? Then it's recommended you complete that qualification process. And then you select that which ISV solution to demo, and really suggest to do one or two, unless you're, if you really fall in that counter sales box and you don't need a lot of bells and whistles, you kind of start there and grow out. And then step 3 is get that POS demo with the customer and your Acumatica partner to make sure you're looking at it from end to end, right? It should always be part of the beginning of your sales cycle to some degree or consideration as you're looking at Acumatica as a whole. And then 4 is to review your implementation guidance with your selected ISV partner. And David, this is where we talked about implementation assist in our discovery document, and that's really a big consideration. And then finally, that post-sale. And David, if you want to chat a little bit about the implementation plan, and we can
yes, in short, the big part of implementation and it's often overlooked is UAT and training. That's going to be the main or the big plate in there, because you need to ensure that you have a plan. Test battery and that your users know what you're doing before going live. It doesn't really sit well when you're trying to force a go live date and the users are not ready for the product. That's one of the biggest concerns. And in general, just have the go live strategy, ensure that you have a follow-up, the 30-day post go live checklist. That means support. That means ensuring that if any issue arises on that first month, that it can be addressed quickly. Though that's a critical time for an implementation. And as a general observation for VARs, ensure that you are engaging in the pre-sales process for the point of sale at the beginning of your pre-sale cycle. Don't leave this to the end. And we have had some scenarios where the partners don't make a decision or don't start the process for the point of sale until the very end of the implementation, and that tends to push dates by a considerable margin. So ensure that you are handling everything in parallel, so you don't have an additional overhead time at the end of your implementation because of the point of sale. Some implementations are very simple and very straightforward. Others may require a lot of time. So ensure that you're planning accordingly.
Excellent. Well, thank you, David. I know, like I said, I think we're close to time. I don't know if there's any questions that anyone has, or in the chat. I didn't see anything.
It doesn't seem like it.
Okay. Let me just double check. No.
And if you have any questions, any comments, or you would like to start the process of a pre-sales discovery with us, just send us an email. Either Stacie or myself will be more than happy to follow up with you and guide you through the process of selecting the correct ISV.
Excellent. Thank you, David. And we'll go ahead and double tap and put our contacts in the chat. But like David said, or if you're not sure where you want to go with the point of sale, please reach out to me. You know, wherever you might be in your sales cycle or post sales as a customer considering all these options. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacie. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.